in terms of Baltimore and racism, any thoughts on black male depression?
I can go first. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, no, I mean, wow, it's a great question. You know, one of the most powerful things that my mom was able to do for me was send me to this Afrocentric school when my first educational experience. Because at that time, it's funny to think about this, but I thought that, Lana was talking about the TV narratives. From that school, all I thought of was black people as powerful people, right? And so, I reflect on this because I wonder, conversely with that is to live your life entirely assuming that you're whole, right? Because African American, as Wes was saying, as you grow up, particularly as a black male in Baltimore, you're seen as a threat no matter what. I mean, I could be wearing a suit in my neighborhood, and parents will pull away their kids from me when I walk past them. Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm what, 5'9" at best, not at all intimidating, right? So when you see these sort of like you go to a school where you don't have running water, you might have lead poisoning, whatever have you. That affects everything as how you see yourself, because you only can see yourself as less than. And conversely, though, we live in we live in a society in which not everyone has that kind of approach. You might be able to go to a school where you have everything, very uplifting, very empowering, and then you have a community of youth where they don't have that at all. It's the exact opposite. So it's nothing. It can only be different. I mean, I don't have, in terms of the mental health component, I can't articulate that, right? But I can only, the experiences that we have as black males can become, if you allow it to, it can become depressing, right? Because of the fact that you're only sort of inundated with negativity. But there's also opportunities where you see black males doing exceptional things, contributing to society every single day, like these two gentlemen here, yourself. But it can be really difficult coming up in the city where literally, people were calling you a threat. I mean, we just had, this past summer, one of a delegate, said that the Inner Harbor was overrun by black teen mobs, right? That's the sort of language that's being used. And the fact that, that wears on you. And so that's just point.
Yeah, my re-entry from 3 years in London was actually quite difficult. So I felt more American in London than I ever had in the U.S. because when I went to London and lived in an international residence hall, people saw me as an American first. And even this was during the lead up to the Iraq War when I got there. But and not in a negative way. They weren't anti-American, but we all, with our different accents and traditions, I think people saw maybe nationality first. And so I was Lionel the American. And maybe they might notice I was black subsequently. And this took a long time to think. It's like so there were people for whom I was the prototypical American. And this was shocking to me. I'm a brother, you know I'm black, right? So number one, and then I had 3 years of that, and 3 years away from the cultural programming, if you will, that I grew up with. I come back to Baltimore, and after a few months, and it sounds really simple, but I had to talk to people about this. I said, seems like 80%, 90% of the time, if I see a black man on television in America, he has either a gun or a ball in his hand. What the heck is going on? And I really started to wonder if there are whole swaths of my community suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. I didn't realize, it wasn't until I got to London that I realized that I'm probably, I'm really edgy. I'm a pretty laid back guy, but like have some like a jogger run up. It's like, whoa, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just be careful there. What are you jogging? What? I'm always on alert, and it wasn't until a few years into London that I started to calm down. And when I came back, I was on alert again. So I think that a lot of us know we grow up under pretty trying circumstances, but we don't understand quite how trying, and we don't fully appreciate some of the mental and physical health consequences of that. It took 3 years away for me to begin to tune into what my upbringing had done to me. And now that I know, I can speak about it much more articulately, but it's quite an experience.
And here's a fact. The largest mental health provider in our country is our criminal justice system. It's a fact. We are dealing with some very significant mental health issues within the community, which then translate and correlate into criminal justice issues throughout our society. And it's important for people to also understand too. We can't overstate some of the challenges that so many of our kids are going through right now. Another great program in Baltimore is called the Incentive Mentoring Project, or the IMP, and I was just with some of their kids, and we were hearing stories about, for example, one of their kids who continually, and she's a 17-year-old girl, who repeatedly has STDs, chlamydia, et cetera, et cetera. Part of the reason why she continues to get these different STDs is because her parents, who are both crack addicts, continue to prostitute her out for money. Another boy who's within the program has been dealing drugs since he was 7 years old. He is now 15 years old, well established in the game. How he first got started was because his uncles first started recruiting him as a runner, because they knew cops generally don't check 7- and 8-year-olds with book bags. And he has now essentially become the mainstream of income for their family. He can't get out if he chooses to. These are real issues that kids are faced with. And I tell you, and I look at, specifically on the mental health issue, I saw a perfect example. When I came back from Afghanistan, they put us through kind of a whole series of testing and evaluations, and who do we talk to, and doctors, and all this kind of stuff. As we're coming back from experience, they want to know, what did you see, and what's been your experience, and did you see death, and did you see this, and did you see that? And there are, and based on your answers is the kind of treatment that you will then get. I would love for people to have those same kind of conversations with a kid coming up in West Baltimore. Have you seen death? Tell me about the traumas that you've seen in your life. And then basically then equate treatment based on that. So we do a we do a better job in the military. We don't do a fantastic job. We do a better job in the military of being able to treat what's happening for so many people who are coming back and based on what they've seen while they're overseas. But if a kid ends up getting caught up in the juvenile justice system and is released from the juvenile justice system, and the first reaction is not necessarily talking about mental health, not talking about depression, not talking about PTSD, which I think is a very real issue in our community, which is never talked about. The first question is, how do we first place them in the fastest special ed class that will actually accept them? And then essentially start preparing a pipeline for them, because we know that eventually this will just turn into a larger problem. And then if you look at the adult prison population, the fact that 63% of the adult prison population have had some type of interaction with the juvenile system. So essentially when we look at the adult prison population in this country and in our city, it's essentially just kids who have now grown up and are now committing more serious crimes. And I don't think we can talk about that or address that unless we also have a very serious conversation about depression and mental health as a whole.